To me, community is relationships. Community is reciprocity. Community is being able to find help and find love in the people, plants, and animals around you.
Community is a place where I can come back to, a place where I'm treated equally and with respect, and a place where I see people who don't look like me and who don't think like me, but who support me, and I support them as well.
I use transit to get to work, school, programs and clubs. Like during the summer, I use transit to get to the University of Washington for my Upward Bound program.
Transit matters to me because I work, and if my mom or someone else is unable to drive me where I need to go, I know that transit can get me there when I need to be there, and it's all day. So I have like a huge time frame to get to where I need to go without having to be like a burden or keep on asking anyone for rides.
I mean, like with me personally, like I don't have parents or family members who can drive all the way across Seattle and Renton and Bellevue and pick me up, you know, because if I have to get somewhere, then I have to get somewhere by myself.
Me, myself, I view transit as, I guess, a method of going around, going places. I don't really have any car and my dad works, so that's like that's my way of seeing my friends and getting to school and taking care of my business during the day.
So, I mean, something about transit that I always know is that there are a lot of just good, innocent people who are just trying to get to point A to point B, just like me. And I think definitely my favorite part is when old women come up to me and they compliment me, they call me sugar, they call me honey, and just other terms of endearment. It just makes my heart so happy. And it's just like the little things like that that make me really enjoy taking the bus.
Well, I feel safe whenever I'm with my friends. I'm happier with them taking the bus with them instead of being alone. I'm just not sitting there by myself. I know with my friends I can talk, laugh with on the bus.
I definitely think that prior to COVID, I didn't really think much about it just because I thought that the transit system was fairly efficient and fairly safe. But then during COVID, especially with pandemic cases rising and hate crimes against Asian Americans rising, I've gotten so much more worried and scared, thinking, am I going to get harassed or abused? I don't want to think those things, but I have to think about my own safety first, so I've been really avoiding transit just because of that safety reason.
As a woman, I usually get harassed on the transit, and especially as a Muslim, whenever I'm wearing the hijab, I always get unwelcome stares, and I just feel really unsafe and unwelcomed in that environment.
A lot of the experiences or moments in which I felt uncomfortable in transit had to do with older men making advances towards me or putting me in uncomfortable situations or making me feel uncomfortable with either their actions or their words towards me based on how I looked.
It doesn't really make sense to me that we have fair enforcement if we're not sure we're even going to be safe. I've been harassed on the bus, and the bus driver didn't really do much or say much, but they were really quick. Fair enforcement is really quick to call me off the bus when I don't have the money to pay, but you're investing into making sure if we have money or not, kicking little kids off of the bus instead of actually giving us security.
I feel transit should be free in general. As a student, I do get ORCA passes, but sometimes when I forget the ORCA passes or when I forget to pay, either like the bus driver or fair enforcement, they make a huge deal out of it. They ask a lot of questions. They kind of harass people about why they did it, and they give them like a warning, which is like a really mean warning. And so sometimes I don't feel that I have the free ORCA pass.
I think having the access to ORCA cards for free and not having to pay every single time, because after a few years of taking transit, the price of a $150 for a student definitely racks up, and I know that from my own experience. So definitely giving access to that for all students eventually, maybe someday, would definitely be a great thing to have and would help promote the use of transit more.
I feel like something I've noticed, especially when I'm in like inner city Seattle, a lot of people on transit tend to look like me. And I think this really does, you know, reveal the curtain for how much racial disparity there is when it comes to transit and access to, you know, vehicles and cars to get places.
Something that would encourage me to take transit more often is if it were more accessible in where I lived. Right now, I have to use personal transportation to reach the closest station, to say like the Link Light Rail. And so sometimes I feel if I'm gonna be driving there, if I'm gonna be driving halfway, why not just drive the full way, you know? And so I feel like if there were more stops in the greater Puget Sound area rather than just like densely populated areas, then that would increase accessibility.
I think people, when they see me or see people in my community, they think like negatively. They think like, oh, we're low income, we're not up for good, we're not successful. I think people in my community, we're showing them like we can do what other people can do. We can stand up and fight for what's right. We can build better for ourselves.
In a conversation about investment, investing in youth is not a question, that's a no-brainer. When it comes to investing in the people who are young now, but are future adults, there's no question about whether you should invest in them or not, because when you invest in children, you invest in the future, you invest in the longevity of a society, and you invest in the well-being of the community at large.